His wife divorced him to marry a rich man after he became paralyzed, saving her. What he did next crushed her. Sign the divorce papers, Tyler. I'm done. I will not spend the rest of my life pushing a man who can't walk again. You're nothing but dead weight now. I need a real man who can stand by me. Those were the venomous words Alyssa Smith said to her paralyzed husband before tossing her wedding ring on the table and walking out of her marriage with a rich man's hand around her waist. She had no idea that the man she abandoned will have his revenge in a way she never expected. Viewers, have you ever watched someone trade loyalty for luxury? What would you do if life handed you the power to turn that betrayal into justice? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Rain pounded against the windshield like nails on glass. Tyler Smith squinted through the blur of water and headlights as they drove down Route 45 outside Dallas. Alyssa sat beside him, scrolling through her phone, her face lit by the cold blue glow of the screen. "Feels like the world's drowning tonight," she said, half smiling. He chuckled. "Just the road saying we should get home early." A semi roared past, spraying water across their windshield. Tyler flicked the wipers to high. They'd just left her sister's birthday dinner. 2 hours of laughter, small talk, and a few too many drinks that Alyssa insisted he shouldn't have. Now the highway was nearly empty, save for the hum of distant tires and the storm's steady rage. As they rounded a curve, the glare of headlights exploded in front of them. A pickup truck had lost control on the slick asphalt, fishtailing wildly into their lane. Alyssa froze, hands still on her phone. Tyler didn't. He jerked the wheel hard right. The world snapped. Metal shrieked. The truck clipped their driver's side, crushing the door into Tyler's ribs. The airbags blew. Glass scattered like glitter through the dark. Their car spun once, twice, before slamming sideways into a guardrail. Then, silence. Alyssa blinked through smoke and the chemical sting of deployed airbags. Her seatbelt locked tight across her chest. Pain shot through her shoulder. She turned, saw Tyler slumped against the bent frame, blood streaking his forehead. "Tyler!" Her voice cracked. She pushed at her door. It jammed. Panic surged. She scrambled across the console, fingers shaking as she tried to release his seatbelt. "Stay with me, please." Outside, a horn blared somewhere down the highway. Rain hissed against the metal roof. A distant voice shouted, "Call 911." A stranger's flashlight cut through the darkness. 2 men pried at the mangled door with a tire iron. One called out, "Ma'am, step back. We'll get him." Alyssa stumbled onto the slick pavement barefoot, shivering. Her knees gave out as they lifted Tyler from the wreck, his body limp, head lolling to the side. Paramedics arrived minutes later, voices clipped and urgent. "Spinal risk. Brace him. Count 3. Lift." The sirens swallowed the night as they sped toward Dallas General. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and cold metal. Fluorescent lights hummed above as nurses rushed down the corridor. Alyssa sat in a plastic chair, her dress stained with blood and rainwater, hands clasped so tight her knuckles whitened. When the doctor emerged, she stood before he even spoke. "Mrs. Smith," he said gently, "your husband's alive. He's stable, but the impact crushed part of his lower spine. He won't be able to walk, for now." He paused, letting the words settle. "Maybe not again." Her breath caught. "For now. We'll know more after surgery. He was lucky you both survived." Lucky. The word burned. Hours later, she entered his room. Tyler lay unconscious, machines tracing his heartbeat in steady rhythm. His face looked peaceful, almost boyish. She brushed his hair back, whispering, "You saved me. You always save me." When he woke 2 days later, his first words weren't about himself. "Are you okay?" She nodded, tears pooling. He smiled faintly. "Then it was worth it." The next weeks blurred into routine. Doctors, physiotherapists, insurance calls. Alyssa slept on the recliner beside his bed. Sometimes she woke to his quiet groans in the dark, pretending not to cry when he did. His friends from the garage visited with cards and jokes. Her co-workers dropped off flowers she couldn't name. Everyone said the same thing. He's a hero. And he was. But heroism didn't pay medical bills. When she opened their savings account, the numbers looked smaller than the fear inside her. She told herself it was just temporary. Things would get better once therapy started. Still, at night she'd stare at his wheelchair parked in the corner, its chrome glinting under the dim light. She hated that chair for what it meant, an ending she hadn't signed up for. But she forced a smile every morning. "Coffee?" she'd ask, pretending everything was normal. Tyler was relentless in hope. He cracked jokes with nurses, promised her he'd walk again, believed it with a conviction that almost hurt to watch. He kept telling her, "Every engine can be rebuilt, even me." Sometimes she believed him. Other times she just nodded and stared at the rain outside his window, wondering if love could really survive this kind of silence. When she left the hospital one evening, the parking lot shimmered with puddles. She stood for a long time looking at the sky. The storm had passed, but thunder still echoed faintly in the distance, like a reminder that calm doesn't always mean peace. Inside, Tyler watched her from his window, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. He whispered to himself, "I'll stand again. For her." He didn't know yet how far that promise would carry him, or how deeply it would break him. Days bled into weeks. The steady rhythm of hospital life became their new normal. The beep of monitors, the hiss of oxygen, the shuffle of nurses' shoes at dawn. The world outside moved fast, but inside those white walls, time crawled. Tyler pushed through rehab with stubborn fire. Each morning, the physical therapist strapped braces around his legs and counted out loud. 1, 2, 3, lift. Sweat drenched his back. Pain shot through his body, but he never stopped trying. Alyssa sat in the corner, phone in hand, pretending not to flinch when he fell. Sometimes she smiled to encourage him, but most days her face was blank, a mixture of pity and exhaustion. He could feel it, the quiet distance that had started to grow between them. It wasn't words. It was air. Heavy air that filled the room when she spoke less and sighed more. One night he woke to find her crying softly by the window. Moonlight carved lines down her face. "What's wrong?" he asked. She turned quickly, wiping her tears. "Nothing. I'm just tired." He reached for her hand, but she stepped back. "Go to sleep, Tyler." He nodded. He didn't know how to fix something he couldn't name. After 6 weeks, the doctors released him. Their modest apartment felt smaller now, the furniture too close, the steps too steep. He had to learn everything again, how to transfer from the chair to the bed, how to shower without falling, how to ask for help without feeling like a burden. Alyssa tried at first. She cooked, managed his medications, paid bills, and called his insurance company. But the strain showed. The first time he dropped a plate, she snapped, "Tyler, you've got to be more careful." I said, "I'm sorry. I just cleaned this place." He stared at the shards on the floor, the reflection of both their faces broken across the tiles. By the 3rd month, she started staying later at work. "They need me for a new development," she'd say, grabbing her purse. "Don't wait up." He nodded, pretending to believe her. He spent his evenings watching the clock, the tick filling the silence she left behind. Money ran low, medical bills kept coming. The insurance company refused another therapy claim. He tried applying for desk jobs online, but every form seemed to ask the same cruel question. "Are you physically able to perform essential duties?" He'd close the laptop, stare at his legs, and feel the weight of his own body. One afternoon, he rolled his chair to the window. Kids were playing soccer in the street below, their laughter carried by the wind. A neighbor's barbecue filled the air with the smell of grilled meat. Alyssa used to love cookouts. Corn on the cob, ribs, cold soda from the cooler. He smiled at the memory, then felt the sting behind his eyes. That evening, when she came home, her perfume filled the room before she did. New perfume, sharp, floral, expensive. Got it on sale, she said quickly when she saw him notice. He smiled faintly. Smells nice. She hesitated. Thanks. They ate dinner in silence. He cut his food slowly, careful not to spill. She scrolled through her phone between bites. I talked to Dr. Morales today, he said softly. He thinks I might be able to stand with new braces. That's great, she murmured, not looking up. Yeah. Maybe even drive again someday. That's great, she repeated, eyes fixed on her screen. He swallowed hard. You used to dream with me, Alyssa. She sighed. Tyler, please, I'm just tired. Can we not do this tonight? He nodded. Sure. Another night then. When she went to bed, he stayed in his chair, staring at the dim light under the bathroom door. Every sound, her footsteps, the faucet, the creak of the bed, echoed in his chest. At 2 a.m., he wheeled himself to the kitchen for water. Her purse lay open on the counter. He saw a small velvet box inside. He thought it was a gift. He smiled. Maybe she was trying after all. But when he opened it, his breath stopped. Inside wasn't jewelry. It was men's protection. He stared at it for a long moment, heart hammering. Then he closed the box and placed it exactly where he found it. When she woke up the next morning, he was already sitting by the window, a quiet storm behind his eyes. Morning, she said, yawning. Morning, he replied calmly. Rough night? Not really, he said. Just thinking. She smiled faintly, unaware that everything between them had just shifted. Outside, the morning light broke through the blinds in sharp lines. Half shadow, half sun. Like the truth waiting to reveal itself. It had been 4 months since the crash. 4 months of rehab, doctor visits, and bills stacked like bricks in a corner. 9 months since the day Tyler Smith turned a steering wheel and traded his legs for her life. The morning started like any other, quiet, heavy, with sunlight bleeding through half-closed blinds. Tyler was in the living room, parked in his wheelchair, sorting the week's mail. The coffee on the table had gone cold hours ago. He heard drawers opening in the bedroom, then the hollow echo of a suitcase hitting the floor. At first he thought Alyssa was just cleaning again. Then came the sound of hangers clattering and zippers dragging. He rolled down the hallway, the soft hum of his chair cutting through the silence. When he reached the doorway, she was bent over the closet, pulling clothes in handfuls. What's going on? His voice was calm. Too calm. She didn't look at him. I'm packing. For what? For good. The words sliced the air. He blinked. Alyssa, what are you talking about? She turned then, face hard, eyes hollow. I'm leaving, Tyler. He froze. Leaving where? To be with Grant, my boss. He can give me the life I want. She tossed her hair back, defiant. He makes me feel alive again. He takes me places. He doesn't need me to feed him or help him dress. He's a real man. Tyler's jaw tightened. A real man? Yes, she spat. A man who can stand on his own 2 feet. He looked around the small apartment. The couch they'd picked together, the pictures on the wall, their wedding photo on the bookshelf. We can talk. She laughed bitterly. Talk? Tyler, you've been talking about hope for 4 months. About how you'll walk again, how things will get better. Newsflash, they won't. You're paralyzed. This, she waved a hand at the chair. This is forever. His throat tightened. You can't just, I can, she snapped. And I am. She dragged the suitcase into the living room, the wheels bumping against the carpet. Do you know what it's like to feel trapped next to a man who can't even stand beside you? I feel like I'm dying in here. He flinched, gripping the armrest. I'm still me, Alyssa. No, you're not. You used to build cars, fix engines, dance with me in the kitchen. Now you just sit there staring at the TV waiting for me to bring you everything. I didn't sign up to be a nurse. I'm not spending the rest of my life pushing a man around who can't even walk. The words hit harder than the crash ever had. The room went still. Even the hum of the refrigerator stopped meaning anything. He stared at her for a long moment, then looked down at his hands, grease-scarred, calloused, trembling. "I loved you," he said quietly. "I saved your life. And I'm thankful," she said, reaching into her purse. "But gratitude does not pay the bills." She dropped a stack of papers on the table. The sound cracked through the silence. He looked down. "Divorce papers. Sign them," she said. "And don't forget, you're required to appear in court next month to finalize it." He laughed once, bitterly. She folded her arms. "Don't be dramatic, Tyler. This isn't working. You deserve someone who can love you the way you need." He looked up slowly. "You mean someone who can pretend?" Her face hardened. "You're twisting everything. I can't live like this. You think I should spend my 20s wiping tables and waiting on a man who'll never walk again? I want a future, Tyler. I want more than this apartment and a wheelchair." He rolled closer, the motor whirring low. "So you're leaving the man who risked his life for you?" "Yes," she said, voice like steel. "Because that's all you ever do. Risk everything, lose everything, and expect people to thank you for it." Something inside him cracked, but not in the way she thought. It wasn't grief anymore. It was something colder, quieter, sharper. He looked at her with an expression she hadn't seen before. Steady, detached, unreadable. "If this is what you want," he said softly, "take it." She bent, zipped her suitcase, and turned toward the door. "Don't call me. Don't text me. And don't make this harder than it needs to be." He said nothing. As she reached the door, she paused, glancing back one last time. "You'll be fine, Tyler. You always were too proud to die." Then she was gone. He sat in the quiet, staring at the papers on the table. Outside, a delivery truck rumbled past. The floor vibrated slightly under his chair, the tremor humming through his legs like a cruel reminder of everything he'd lost. He reached for the divorce papers, studied her signature, and whispered, "You think this ends me?" He wheeled himself toward the window, the morning sun creeping across the floor, warm against his hands. "But you just woke me up." He didn't cry. He didn't shout. He only stared out at the street, watching the cars move, wheels turning, engines alive. And for the first time since the accident, he felt something inside him start to move again. The apartment was in ruins, clothes draped over chairs, half-empty coffee mugs on the counter, the faint smell of burnt toast clinging to the air. Tyler sat by the window in silence, watching dust dance in a shaft of light. The divorce papers lay on the table where Alyssa had left them, still unsigned. When the doorbell rang, he ignored it at first. The knock came again, firmer this time. "Tyler?" It was Dr. Claire Morgan, his physiotherapist. She stepped inside, froze at the sight, and exhaled. "What happened in here?" He didn't turn. "A storm. 2 legs down, 1 wife gone." She set her bag on the counter, surveying the mess. "You missed your appointments, 3 of them." He gave a small shrug. "Guess I didn't feel like being stretched today." Claire crossed the room, crouched beside him. "Where's Alyssa?" "Gone," he said simply. "She said she couldn't spend her life pushing a man who couldn't stand." The words hung between them. Claire's expression softened. "She actually said that?" "She said worse." He gave a hollow laugh. "Told me I'm half a man." Claire swallowed hard, her eyes glistening. She stood, rolled up her sleeves. "All right. First, you're getting out of that chair. Second, we're cleaning this place before something starts growing in the sink." "I don't need pity," he muttered. "Good," she said briskly, "because I don't give it." She opened the windows, letting sunlight pour in, gathered clothes, scrubbed the dishes, filled the air with the sound of motion, something Tyler hadn't heard in days. When she finally sat back down, she looked at him with quiet authority. "You don't get to disappear, Tyler. Not on my watch." That night she made soup and stayed until he fell asleep. When he woke the next morning, she was back, tapping her fingers on the doorframe. "Therapy starts now," she said. Within weeks, Claire's visits became routine. She adjusted his braces, challenged him, forced him to laugh again. One night after another grueling session, they sat on the balcony drinking iced tea. The city hummed below them, neon lights flickering on wet pavement. "You ever think about starting over?" she asked. "Every morning," he said. "Then I remember the ground I'm starting from." She smiled softly. "You're standing, even when you think you're not." Something shifted that night. A quiet connection formed in the pauses, the shared glances, the unspoken understanding between two people who had seen too much pain to pretend. Over the next few months, Claire moved into the spare room after finding him collapsed one evening, too proud to call for help. "You need someone around," she said, brushing off his protests. "Let me be that someone." He didn't argue again. They built a rhythm. Morning stretches, shared meals, small jokes that chipped away at the walls around his heart. She learned his moods, his silences, his smirks when she teased him about being stubborn. And slowly, without either of them admitting it, affection crept in. One humid July afternoon, a letter arrived. Thick, embossed with a gold seal. Grayson Moore, attorneys at law. Tyler opened it absent-mindedly, then stopped cold at the words, "We regret to inform you of the passing of Mr. Harold Grayson, your maternal uncle. As per his will, you are the sole beneficiary of Grayson Urban Group and all its holdings." He stared at it for a long time. "I haven't spoken to that man in 15 years. Claire took the letter, eyes wide. "Tyler, that's one of the biggest real estate corporations in Dallas." He leaned back, stunned. "The same uncle who said fixing cars was a waste of my talent. Guess irony runs in the family." The following week, they met the lawyers downtown. The building was all marble and glass, the kind of place where voices echoed power. Tyler signed the inheritance papers with steady hands. By sunset, he was the owner of Grayson Urban Group, an empire that quietly controlled half the city's skyline. As they left the boardroom, the attorney handed him a folder. "You'll want to review your subsidiaries. The most active one is Silvercrest Realty, top-performing branch, recently expanded." Claire's brow furrowed. "Wait, Silvercrest Realty? Isn't that—" Tyler's voice dropped. "That's where Alyssa worked." She turned to him slowly. "And her boss? Grant Weston." The weight of it settled like a storm before lightning. Tyler looked out across the city skyline, his reflection staring back in the glass door. Claire touched his arm gently. He smiled faintly, but it wasn't humor. It was clarity. "I'm thinking I finally know where to start over." She studied him quietly. "You mean revenge?" He looked at her, eyes steady. "No, closure. Though if it comes with paperwork, I won't complain." Outside, thunder rolled over Dallas. Claire's hand lingered on his shoulder. He turned slightly, meeting her gaze. In that quiet moment, she saw both the man who had once been broken and the man who had decided never to be again. "Come on," he said softly. "We've got a company to visit." The morning sunlight spilled through the blinds of Tyler's new office at Grayson Urban Group, reflecting off the tower windows of downtown Dallas. His life felt both foreign and familiar. A man once crawling now sat at the head of an empire. Claire placed a cup of coffee beside him, her gentle smile grounding the moment. "First day as CEO," she teased softly. "How's the view from the top?" He smiled faintly. "Same city. Different altitude." That afternoon, he began his review of the company's operations. Each department file revealed more than numbers. It showed years of neglect and quiet theft. He didn't recognize most of the names, but he recognized patterns. Money missing, projects delayed, audits ignored. "Run a full internal investigation," he told the compliance team. "All subsidiaries, no warning, every account, every manager." He didn't think much of it, just routine cleanup. But weeks later, a folder landed on his desk stamped, "Confidential." Claire was beside him when he opened it. The first page bore the logo of Silvercrest Realty, one of Grayson's luxury subsidiaries. The report was detailed, airtight, and damning. A mid-level manager named Grant Weston had been skimming commissions, inflating property valuations, and laundering money through shell buyers. Tyler blinked once, quietly reading the name again. Grant Weston? Claire looked up. What is it? He stared at the photo clipped to the file. Grant standing beside Alyssa at a Silvercrest corporate gala. Her arm looped through his, her smile bright and familiar. He said nothing for a moment, then closed the folder carefully. Schedule a full board review at Silvercrest, he said quietly. Tomorrow morning. The next day, the boardroom of Silvercrest Realty was all glass and chrome, overlooking the Dallas skyline. Department heads whispered nervously. Grant sat near the end of the long table, his usual confidence slipping as security guards stood by the door. Alyssa sat a few seats away, clutching her notepad, unaware of the storm about to break. The double doors opened. Claire entered first, followed by Tyler Smith. He wore a dark suit, posture straight, his presence commanding without a word. Conversations died instantly. "Good morning," Tyler said calmly. "I'll be brief." He set a thick folder on the table and looked directly at Grant. Grayson Urban Group conducted a routine internal audit. What we found in your department was disturbing. Grant's throat tightened. "Sir, if this is about the client contracts, I can explain." Tyler flipped open the folder. "Can you explain why company funds were routed into your personal account under an alias? Or why 4 high-value properties were sold twice on paper?" Gasps rippled through the room. Alyssa's eyes widened as she turned toward Grant. "That's not true," Grant said quickly, his voice trembling. "Someone's framing me." Tyler looked to Claire, who handed him another file. "We verified your handwriting on the falsified receipts." Grant's jaw tightened. "You can't." He didn't finish. The door opened, and 2 police officers stepped inside. "Grant Weston," one said, pulling out a warrant. "You're under arrest for corporate fraud, embezzlement, and tax evasion." Grant froze. "Wait, please. There's a misunderstanding. I was just—" The officers guided him up. He didn't resist. His voice cracked once. "Tell them I wasn't alone. There were others." Tyler's expression didn't change. "We'll find out." The doors closed behind the officers and the room stayed utterly still. He turned to the board. "Effective immediately, an interim manager will oversee this department. All complicit employees will be terminated after review." Nobody spoke. Tyler closed the file, rose slowly, and left the room without another word. 2 days later, Alyssa sat in her small cubicle, staring at her termination letter. It cited professional misconduct and violation of data confidentiality. The HR manager hadn't said much, just that her dismissal was part of a company-wide restructuring. Her hands shook as she packed her things. The phone buzzed. Her friend Marlene from accounting. "Marlene, please," Alyssa whispered. "You've got to help me. They fired me for something I didn't even do." Marlene hesitated. "You didn't hear?" "Hear what?" "The new CEO. He's not like the last one. They say he's fair. Maybe if you see him face to face, he'll reconsider." Alyssa wiped her tears. "You think he'll listen?" "Maybe. He's giving everyone one chance to appeal. But you better hurry." She didn't even wait to hang up properly before grabbing her purse and heading for the elevator. An hour later, she stood in the towering glass lobby of Grayson Urban Group. The receptionist looked up as she approached. "I need to see the CEO," Alyssa said, voice trembling but determined. "Please, just 5 minutes." The woman hesitated, made a quick call, then nodded. "He'll see you." The executive office was vast. Marble floors, a skyline view, sunlight flooding through glass walls. Alyssa stepped inside, clutching her file. The chair behind the desk was turned away from her. "Mr. Smith?" she began softly. "Please, I know you don't know me, but—" The chair turned. Her words died. Tyler sat there, calm, composed, alive in every way she once thought he'd never be. Her bag slipped from her hand. "Tyler." He leaned back slightly, eyes steady. "Mrs. Weston, please, have a seat." She couldn't move. Her throat tightened. You own this?" He nodded once. "Inherited. A few months after you left." Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't know. Tyler, I swear I didn't—" He cut her off softly. "You didn't care to." Her voice cracked. "I was scared. I made a mistake." He studied her face for a long moment, then said quietly, "You didn't make a mistake, Alyssa. You made a choice." "Please," she whispered, stepping closer. "I've lost everything. Just one chance." He shook his head slowly. "You took your chance when I had nothing. Now I have everything, and I'm not giving any of it back." She covered her mouth, sobbing. "You're cruel." "No," he said, standing, his voice calm and final. "I'm free." He pressed a button on his desk. "Security." She gasped. "Tyler, please, don't do this to me." He looked her in the eyes. "You did this to yourself." The guards entered, escorting her out. Her cries faded as the door closed behind her. Claire stepped to his side, one hand resting on the chair handle, the other brushing his shoulder like a promise. He nodded once. No speeches, no victory pose, just breath. They rolled out together, her steps unhurried, his chair whispering over the marble, the door closing soft behind them. Do you think Alyssa deserves a second chance? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more interesting and true-to-life stories.